What are you doing, Daddy?
Trying to take over the world, Tyler. Welcome to the Awesome Black Dad Show, your number one podcast for and about black dads. I'm your host, creator Terrell Lindsay, and I created this show with the hope that I can encourage, empower, educate, and in the process, entertain fathers in a way that inspires us to be a better version of ourselves. This is episode 9 of the Awesome Black Dad Show, and today we're doing things a little differently around here. We pulled together a small panel of dads to answer questions both from social media and inside the room as well. Now, when I decided to do this, I thought it'd be a great idea, but when we all got in the same room together, I figured out how wrong I was. It turned out to be something much, much greater. So much so that I had to break this panel up into 2 different episodes. You can expect to hear very candid and honest responses and dialogue to some meaningful questions surrounding fatherhood, manhood, masculinity, acceptance, and so much more. So if you're sitting in rush hour traffic on your way to or from work, lean your seat back a little bit more like your uncle would smoking a Newport 100, turn your volume up a notch and allow us to enjoy the ride with you. What does masculinity look like in today's society for us, and how are you raising your children, particularly, obviously, your boys, based on what masculinity looks like in society today? What are you doing that's either different or against the against the grain?
I just had so many visions. I had butches in my masculinity is an idea. You know what I mean? It's not a real thing you can picture.
It's subjective.
Yeah,
like, man, that shit gonna change from one to the next, bro. Like your thoughts of masculinity are totally different than what growing up.
I know a dyke who looked more manly than me.
But
she's more masculine. She's more masculine.
Yeah, I mean, like when you say
based on the
stereotypical masculinity. You know what I mean?
That's right.
I don't have no hair on my chest. She got hair on her chest, G.
Yeah. How'd she do that?
I don't know.
Let's not go down there.
Let's stay on point. You stacking up shows.
Talk about it all.
You know, like when you think about masculinity, bro. Like we've had this conversation before too. Like you be like, you grow up, man, and like you kind of want your kids to be tough because you grew up tough. But then when you older you get, it's like, bro, if my son never had to fight in his life, I'd be okay with that.
Great.
And to say that is like, I'm not saying like,
beat you up.
yeah, you ain't. Hey, son, don't take no ass whoopings. Right. But I ain't telling you to go find none either.
Exactly.
Don't get bullied. Don't be bullied.
Yeah, like man, you just supposed to be a normal individual, but that whole sense of masculinity is just like that shit gone, bro.
Yeah,
so it shouldn't exist.
Nah, I mean, because I think now we gonna get into some other shit. But like this is my thought processes on like homosexuals, and like I can't say that because it's like a lot of that is like a lot of the tendencies that men have. Mm-hmm. Those feminine tendencies is because there was no man there to say, hey, boy, don't do that shit.
Yeah.
There's got to be a man there.
Exactly.
When your son walk in that room and he got on them heels.
He's smacking his...
And your wife sitting there is cute, you supposed to knock him out of them heels. Like, boy, don't no fucking man wear heels. Right. I'm not laughing. I'm not joking. That's not funny. Yeah. It's not cute.
Yeah. Cut it out.
And I think a lot of that's missing. So for you to define masculinity is really like, because there's a lot of guys, like you might think of the dude, we all hoop. You might think of dudes that don't hoop that's not masculine. This nigga play soccer. Is that soft?
That's tough.
Yeah.
But you think of it as soft. But when you grow up in the neighborhood,
it's all subjective. Like you said.
You grow up in our black neighborhood, you either playing basketball, football, and maybe some baseball. Right. All them other sports is like that's some soft shit.
Right. Yeah.
So you do this, you do that. So
right.
it's like
then you get older, you see when them take a soccer ball off their heel.
Oh yeah, you see that? Crazy. You see Tiger Woods hit a ball 400 yards. You like he's rich.
Exactly.
Son, you can hit a ball 400 yards.
Exactly.
So like the thought process, the thought of masculinity is kind of like.
But we living in a society, right, to where to be able to strike that balance, and I think that it's very important that you do in your household what you believe is the right thing, and that's what you're going to instill in your kids. But we live in a society where it's like all of the quote-unquote normalities of that is changing, where it's like the public bathroom situation is different. So how do you even So how do you even get in a situation where you're teaching your kids about when you say you knock them out of the shoes and he knows and understands that's wrong. But to be quite honest, by the time our kids or my kids are in high school,
it'll be completely different.
It's going to be that thing. And how do you get them to have a level of empathy, or is it even empathy? That might not be.
I believe in
empathy.
Societal empathy. Yeah. You got to define empathy. What are we talking about?
What?
That's why I say empathy might be the wrong word to use in that particular context. But I'm saying is like when you
empathy towards.
So when you walk in, so knowing that it's wrong.
Changing?
So the balance between right and wrong, I think that's what's being challenged, right? So we know that,
but that's not masculinity. The question is like,
with respect to the masculinity, right? When your kid walks in the room and he has on the high heels and you knock him out, you're telling him that that's wrong. That's not what he should be doing as a man, right? But when he goes out into society, it's like it's free.
He sees another
male. He sees another male walking in high heels.
But that's where
he says that's wrong. What are you doing? He's really. And it's a bit level of judgmental when you look at him differently, but the way society is doing.
It's not judgmental. It's telling him those are my views, and that's what he's been raised in. I hope he would accept my foundation as his backbone.
I think you're translating the lesson. You know what I'm saying? You're saying that he knocked him out the shoes, and the lesson was boys don't do that. And then he goes out and see a boy wearing high heels. He says that's wrong. It is. Like, call it what it is. I don't care. Listen. Y'all know where I'm about to come from. Biblically speaking, in the Bible, it is very clear on who the males are. When God wanted to kill when kings wanted to kill the male babies, they said, kill everyone who pisseth against the wall. That means all male babies. Kill all the babies, all the all the human beings that can pisseth against the wall. A woman can't piss against a wall, so she ain't a man. So to see, if your child go out and see a woman acting like a man, and he knows she can't piss against a wall, she's wrong. Dead wrong. Call it what it is. It's wrong. Just like if we see somebody murder another person, that murderer is wrong. Like regardless of the situations, man, we have to start calling it what it is.
Yeah, and I'm not telling him to go out there and slap the guy in the heels. I'm just telling him to know it's wrong. Exactly. That's all I'm saying.
You have to teach your kids right from wrong.
Yeah, that's like, I'm not telling him to jump out of his lane every time you see a homosexual, you slap him. I'm not telling him that. I just want you to know it's wrong.
That's wrong.
Yeah, I ain't supposed to.
It's a male and a female.
You know what my problem is with that whole mixed bathroom thing? Bro, if you had a daughter, and your daughter went in that bathroom, and this big-ass sissy, I can't say that kind of, bro, you just think about it. You see, this man, some big...
You ain't gonna say it because you don't use curse words.
Yeah, but I'm just saying.
I can say sissified.
You gonna say big old.
I can say sissified all day.
Nah, I'm just saying.
Sissified.
Bro, like you had a daughter. You had your 12-year-old, your underage daughter going there in her bathroom.
You walk in there.
And it's a dude in there. Yeah. Like, man, I think...
I wish we had... I should be recording this because these...
Does it, that makes it okay? Because he say he gay? That my daughter... In theory, my daughter shouldn't have to be subjected to that.
Right. No, I agree. I'm not in that lane.
So we plant the seed at home and say, look, this is what a woman does.
Yes.
This is how a woman carries herself.
This is how
because we can break down woman and man into all kind of categories. After woman, there comes a lady. Or there's a hoe. Yeah. Or there's, you know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
If there's a man, we got the hard man. We got the soft man.
Yeah. We got everything in between.
Yeah. So you have to break it down. They can be anything out there. You have to differentiate man, woman. This is what a man does. This is what a woman does.
Yes, it has to be defined.
At the end of the day,
a boy can't grow up without that definition.
I will say this. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know what I mean? At the end of the day, like, as your job as a parent is to put your imprint on your child. You know what I'm saying? Your imprint on your child. You know what I mean? And there are differentiations between men and women. And as a parent, you shape, make, build those differentiations. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's what you do. And literally that's the end of the story. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? What you do, I can tell you what I can do, what I'll do in my house. Jarrell can tell you what he can do in his house. Byron will tell you what you do in his house. It's gonna be a lot of the same stuff. You know what I mean? But you got to stay along those lines. You know what I mean? Like I don't. You know what I mean? Like I don't. There is a line somewhere, and it falls in different places. of what's crossing the line. But if you really sit down and talk to somebody, it's gonna be along the same lines. You know what I mean?
There has to be a foundation.
There you go. Right.
I think from our standpoint, everybody here is like, I got to set a foundation. Like you can, a kid's gonna grow up and deviate from it anyway. But I know at the end of the day, my son know what a man do.
Right.
I can't.
And that go back to
everyone in this room could realistically have a homosexual kid. But even as my homosexual son, he know what his daddy don't like.
But here's
homosexuality.
I'm
just saying. I'm just saying.
But you know what?
In the name of
I'm just being honest.
But that goes back to that goes back to our previous conversation, and it always ends with this. I think every conversation that we have ends with this. At the end of the, and this is what my motto is. In the morning, I wake up, I brush my teeth, you know what I'm saying? I shave, I cut, shave my hair and all that kind of thing. And I have to be comfortable with the reflection in that mirror. That's my motto.
Preach, preacher.
Whether it's defining, you know what I'm saying, masculinity, was defining who I am as a father, who I am as a guy who is in a situation where I have a child with someone I'm not married to, a fiance, all that kind of stuff. Going forward to be a husband. Every morning, you know what I'm saying, when I flick that light on to go to work to take care of this family, I have to look at that guy in the mirror and be okay with him. Yeah. That's literally what it boils down to.
Like Byron said,
my son, not to cut you off, but my son could never be as masculine as me. Because he didn't grow up like I grew up.
Right. He didn't have to.
He didn't grow up around the men I grew up. Like we all, everybody in this room hoop. There is no 32 no more. There is no 21. So my son will never play with a drunk old man at the playground.
Yeah.
Pushing them down, doing all type of shit.
Right.
You play with men that was way older.
Yeah, but you grew up.
Right.
So my level of masculinity.
Right. If it's a 30-year-old man at the playground, now we like, hey, bro, what you?
Yeah. Now you like, oh, you pedophile? Hey, what you?
What's going on?
Growing up, you like, man.
See, that's real. That is real.
Growing up, bro, you like check ball.
Exactly.
Like, man, I ain't running.
I will kill your 32-year-old.
Yeah, who daddy this is? I'm about to fuck up. But it's like, but that was then. Your son will never see that.
Right. It's real.
Your level of masculinity,
you laughing, but it's real, right? It's real, Rail. I just say it into the mic. Just say it into the mic.
Y'all coming to me talking about, you a pedophile? Dude, I'm out here trying to hoop, man.
Nah, bro, you better get your old ass out of here.
You know what? Right, it's so like
talk. You just like, man,
and I can't say this about my son because I feel like it did me a great justice, so I probably will do this with my son. Like when I was, like I said, my parents, if I'm talking about my biological parents, I gave you the prefix bio.
Right.
I'm talking about my parents, the people who raised me. So they were older, 40 years older than me. So it was things that I couldn't do. It all goes into me not being able to play ball until I was like in high school and all that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? So I hung out, old school style in the alley with Mr. Thompson, Mr. Manning.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Mr. Cyrus the Virus. You know what I'm saying? Back in the day.
That's crazy.
You know what I'm saying?
That's crazy kitty.
Mike, exactly. Mike Matthews. Not little Mike, big Mike Matthews. You know what I mean? I hung out in the garages. We had the carpet out. We watched the game. You know what I'm saying? The Cubs game.
Flipping on pissy mattresses.
Game. We sat out there.
Definitely did
and
that.
They didn't take it easy on me.
No.
They talked what was their expression of man shit.
Man.
You know what I'm
And
saying?
I think you'll still do so.
You know what I'm saying? So I don't want to take that away. And when my son becomes 7, 8, whatever, come on downstairs to the man cave. Let's speak.
You know what I'm saying? There was no doctor.
No.
Wrap that up.
No.
Go out there, finish playing.
Correct.
Hey, don't.
Here's the thing.
Hey, if you hurt, you can stay in the house.
Right. Exactly.
Like that's what your mama told you.
But
You
look,
hurt, you.
but
That's from a mother.
No, I get
that's
that.
not
but
even
it's
a
still,
dad. You
that's
go in the
still-
house, your mama say, if
But
you
this part of the
hurt, you can sit in here.
This part of the conversation is still like it's identifying what we believe is what masculinity is, right?
But
So,
it's changed.
I know it's changed, but it's still
But
it's
yeah,
still
'cause
that it's
but
still
here-
that hard component.
but
Like
for
what's
real.
happening today
But-
is that they're trying to I don't want to say they, but society as a whole, based on the images that we see,
Emasculates.
yes,
But-
exactly.
but
So
for
they're
real,
pulling
but for-
they're pulling that hard stuff out. So what we're having a conversation about around this table is that our experiences, to some degree, will be in our children. That
Right.
stuff that you had, you're going to.
Mandatory.
So
Right.
right.
So it's like I don't want to. So people are trying to get rid of the idea of masculinity. Right. But I think I think that still needs to exist in my opinion.
But that goes back to my previous statement. At the end of the day, you're gonna imprint on your child what you know.
I think what he's saying is our belief of, or our definition of masculinity versus society's.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like we're gonna instill in our kids.
Right. That don't matter. Society is one thing, but I'm gonna imprint on you. I'm gonna imprint on you what I know.
I want my kids to hear my voice.
But I'm gonna look in the mirror. You know what I'm saying? At the end of the day, what I give him, after I give it to him, I gotta go to sleep that night, and I'm wake up.
No, I hear
the
like
question.
Right. Yeah. It ain't that one. I think I moved it
and
on.
That light, and in that mirror, I'm gonna be like,
no, I get
I'm
it.
cool.
So
I think we're trying to answer two different questions.
Well, kind of, sort of, but we haven't really having a discussion about what masculinity really is and what society thinks that it is, right? So you guys everybody at this table is really solid in who they are, right? But we talked about earlier that if there's a guy that grew up in a house without a man, right, and he don't really have an understanding of what masculinity looks like.
But that's another thing we can't really speak to.
No,
you can because
you are right now. So if that guy is listening to this episode, right, if he's listening to this podcast and he's listening to hear a particular thing about what masculinity really looks like, right, or because now he doesn't have before he listens to this, he won't have an idea of what masculinity is, except for what society is telling him, right? And so now, because the reason why we're at this table, because to some degree we're all like-minded, but we all have our own different perspectives and experiences, and so we can add that to his perspective. So now he's like, well, I grew up thinking that, as an example, this is extreme, but I grew up thinking that it was funny for me to walk in the room with my auntie and my mama with them heels on. Now that I'm sitting around and I'm listening to four guys talk about, that's not right. It's not that it's not right. It's not even funny, right? Because now we do things. That's the same reason why Dave Chappelle walked away from the Chappelle show, because they wanted him to put on a dress. It's not funny, right? You might think that it's funny, but my level and idea of masculinity is not. And so what Dave Chappelle did is that if he walked away from $50 million because of that, right? He's really he's telling you, or he's redefining what masculinity to some degree is, right? Especially in our culture as black men, because that's where it's being stripped.
Because we grew up on the shows like Good Times and all that. Like James Evans was tough. Then they had in the 80s My Two Dads. All that stuff started, you know what I mean? Just the ideas of this emasculating system.
But the biggest part of that was our environment, bro. You was getting it at home. You was getting it at school. You was getting it with your friends.
Like, y'all couldn't even play ball with me if y'all wasn't tough.
Yeah,
right?
like bro, think
even
about
that same
for the people out there in the world, I want you to know that's fact. Yeah, right. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You could not play with Rail. He was
a hack. He slapped
me. But to his point, even at that early stage, he developed something in the people, and some of us, because I grew up in the same environment, so the toughness was still there. But for the people that walked in, not to really put you out there, but it's like, okay, when he comes in and he's hacking you, or he's making you tough, he's bringing you closer to what that level of masculinity you're going to need to be.
Yeah, but if you got it before you met Jarrell, it's like whatever. I ain't like, man, come on with the shit. Like we all with the shit.
But then when you leave that environment and you take it elsewhere, you're here. You're here. You're walking into rooms and you have this. When you walk into other gyms and you have that level of masculinity because you've already been through it, it's like, nah, you can't. What are you doing?
Like, bro, there's no substitute for hooping in the alley.
Right,
bro, you all, like, it's glass and shit. Yeah. Like, bro, it's an alley.
That tree bark.
Yeah, alley, bro.
Split at the shoulder.
Bro, there's no
stuff. There's no
stuff you know that when you take a shower, it's gonna hurt.
Oh, it's gonna burn. Oh my God.
So there's no substitute for picking yourself up off the concrete more than you're shooting the ball, right? And that translates to everything else in life, right? So the reason that, and we have to be that as black men, when we walk into, no matter what industry you're in, whether you walk into a boardroom or you're walking into and you're selling a house, or you're playing golf to make sales, right? It's like all of that needs to exist in our environment. I guess where I'm going is like, I feel like we have to, as men that have sons, it's hard to figure out that balance because of society, right? Because you can't. They already look at
society is fighting against us.
Against us, and then they're creating this.
But I had my cousin tell me a long time ago. Shout out to Jenny. Jenny was talking. We was laughing, we joking and shit. She was like, "Man, if you gonna let TV raise your kids, shame on you." TV and society don't raise my kids.
No, they don't.
They can't influence.
They can influence, but at the end of the day, with all the influences, all the shit that go on, everything that goes on, I would hope that I've done my job to the point where my son hears me in the back of his head.
There you go.
When he sees the kid when he sees the kids in the hills, he be like, "Oh, my daddy wasn't like that."
Yeah,
my daddy wasn't like that. When he sees the dyke, when he sees when he sees difference, I hope and pray that my son hears me echoing like, "Hey, boy, that ain't cool."
Right.
Fair enough. So because we can.
That's
keep going.
Hey,
keep going.
You got another show?
Yeah, I got another show. It's another episode. We got to move.
Scripture says, "Train up a child in the way they should go, and when they get old, they will not depart from it."
Preach.
Well, that's bang the guy. We're gonna move on to the next question.
Absolutely.
So another social question is
preach.
What?
You know what it was when you invited us over.
I did. So what's the hardest part of being a father?
Ooh, I think that's different between each family.
Well, let's go with it. We just talk from your perspective.
I'll tell you what my hardest part of raising family is I know for a fact what my hardest part. My son, because I had a child with someone that I'm not with, the hardest part is dropping him off. That's the see y'all don't have to, see you don't have to deal with that.
You hear me though?
The hardest part is on that Monday morning when you drop him off at school and you know you're not picking him up. And the hardest part is the court telling you that it ain't 50-50. It's not. You know what I mean? Like I had to fight for my you know what I'm saying? I had to fight for my 40%. You know what I'm saying?
My life,
that's the hardest thing. Like, because at the end of the day, I mean, this is 100% fact. When I get my son back from his mother, it is an hour of 2 hour or 2 hours, depending on the situation, what's going on. I don't know what's going on over there, and I'm not finna dog what's going over there. I don't, you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. But in my opinion, like there is a difference. Mm-hmm. And it's an hour of 2 hour of what I call straightening time.
Deep
You
program.
know what I'm saying? Deep, it's not even deep program because you need both parts.
It's that putting your part in.
It's of getting it back. What's right in my house.
Time.
I don't want to say what's right in my house. Yeah, take a walk. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Like it's that's the hardest thing of like being what you think. Yeah, thank you, bro. I need that ice. You know what I'm saying? It's hard for me to drop him off. I don't know what he's getting. I don't know what he's not getting. You know what I'm saying? And I'm pretty sure it was hard for her, but this ain't her show. This is my show. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? It like you it's your son. The hardest thing ever as a man for me is to know that my son ain't with me. I know it's times, he never expressed to me because he's only 5 years old, but I know it's times that he's with her, that he needs me, and I can't be there for him. Like, I can't sleep at night sometimes thinking about that. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? And because of that,
in the show with this, I can't go on.
And because of that, like when he calls, if he's with me, he calls, I jump up. If he needs something, I feel like sometimes I overcompensate because I you know what I mean? Like, it's hard to come from where I come from and to be and want to be the man and father that I want to be, and a piece of paper telling me that I cannot. That's hard for me. That it. You can't find nothing harder for that. You know what I'm saying? I've been in a situation where my life has been threatened. I've been in a situation where my life's been threatened. I had guns pulled on me. I didn't have a situation where I thought that I was going to go to jail for a long time for things that I did not do.
Welcome to the black man experience.
I've been black man life.
You
I've been
did
in a
that
situation
shit.
when I thought I was going to
real
robbed.
black man.
I thought
He
I
like
was going to be
Ghost.
killed.
Whatever you did, he did that
I've
shit.
been in all kind of situations. But the hardest thing that I've been, you know what I'm saying, I've been adopted. I seen my dad walk past, that we've alluded to in earlier parts of this conversation. But the hardest thing I have ever done in my life, I've I've had my dream of basketball stripped away from me several times in college. All that stuff you think hurt.
Right.
All the stuff you think hurt.
Right.
And then I drop my son off, and I know I can't pick him up until 4 or 5 days later. That's when I cry. You know what I'm saying? That's when I can't sleep at night.
Don't cry.
You know what I'm saying? That's the situation.
Please don't. And I don't have no napkins for you. Get masculine. Man up.
Masculine.
And
Man up.
Be masculine.
And time. And you know what I'm saying? Like, you don't invite bad dads on the show. You know what I'm saying? You don't. You need to have a show. That you know what I'm saying? Stereotypical bad dad.
Well, he don't know if we are.
You know what I'm saying?
He has no
we could be
clue.
lying.
But you don't. But in your opinion, you didn't invite guys that you just feel
Invite my
not
kids
there.
to see if I'm
That's
right.
not the premise of the show.
Right.
That's not the premise of the show. So to feel like you haven't did anything wrong besides not want to be with the mom, and that costs you time with your son, that's what keeps me up at night.
Gotcha.
That's the hardest thing I've been through in my entire life.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, for
You know
sure.
what? Now when you say that though, one of the hardest things about being a father is acceptance, because you grow up and you have these ideals about what you want your kids to be and what your kids you want them to look like and all that type of stuff. And then you look at them and like accepting that they're their own person. Because like you look at your kid, you be like say for all us, we all hoop. Your son might not hoop.
Right.
So you gotta accept. My son don't hoop. He don't do that. My son don't do what I do. My son I like clothes. My son like, man, I got a kid that like, man, he don't give a shit. My son might show up. He might show up at your house in his drawers, and that's cool with him. I would never do that. But that acceptance part is like, man, you got to be able to look at your kid and be like, man, that's him. And that take a while. It takes some time for you to be able to look at him and be like, that's him. That's him or her. So that is one of the hardest parts about being a parent, or a parent and a father. Just being able to accept your kids for who they are, because you can have all the ideals in the world. Me and my wife, we have this conversation. I was like, it took me a while to get to the point, but it's like, she's like, man, I would love for my kid to be a doctor, a lawyer, all that. I say, babe, I'd be happy if you're a garbage man, as long as he take care of himself. That's my objective here. But it take a while for you to get to the point where you can accept he might not be what you want. It ain't for what you want. It's kind of like what he wants. It's like, or she. That child has to still grow.
I think after my second child, I got a little better.
Yeah, you be like,
it take about 2 kids for you to get
you like you have this ideal of what this should be.
The first was along my line. That's why. That's why.
The first was like, dude, like everything was in comparison to me.
Yep, you be looking at him like
but
that.
He don't do it like if I was there, I would have did.
Yeah,
this.
you tell him you find yourself yelling at him like, hey boy, shoot the ball. Like I'm just talking from basketball. Son, you gotta let that shit go. Shoot it.
And then toughen up.
Yeah.
Push back.
Yeah,
man, like push.
You like whoa.
Push him with 2 hands.
Yes.
Right.
Man,
Get a foul call on you.
Yeah, I'm
Get
okay
a
with that.
Y'all a little bit further, and I think those situations will develop. You know what I'm saying? I think I think I will evolve into that. But for right now,
trying to help you right now.
But for right now, so like I just went to a parent-teacher conference. So you go to the parent-teacher conference and you telling them, they telling you where they think your child is at. You telling them where you think your child is at. You know what I mean? You all in agreement. You know what I mean? And for the most part. And then you hear about things that he does at your house that he doesn't do at her house. Mm-hmm. Or things that he does at her house that they doesn't do at your house. Like y'all sharing information because y'all can't talk like adults.
Right.
So you know what I'm saying? Like it's a
wake-up call for sure.
Right. Yeah, that's things that she could work on because it's going on in my house, and I could work on because it's going on in my house. You know, I mean, at her house. I'm sorry, if you forgive me for that. And you just missed it.
Yeah.
If it wasn't for this parent-teacher conference,
you wouldn't have got that.
I may not have ever known that because he doesn't do that in my house. That's time that I can't like you could. I could spend money and I can get it back. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. You can't get that time back.
I could lose a car, buy another car. You know what I'm saying? I could have to leave right now. We could pick up this conversation again. Yeah. But the time that she spoke about that he was doing things at his house at her house that he doesn't do at mine, and vice versa, we can't get that back. Mm-hmm. And although I was happy that my son is doing well, shout out to Lil Irv the III, you know what I'm saying?
I'm about to cut your mic off. I'm about to cut from the board. I'm about to cut your mic off.
Although
this is turned into the Irving show.
Although there are things.
Drink champs, drink champs.
Exactly.
Baby, get him another drink.
You know what I'm saying? That I'm glad he's doing well.
Drink up, Swerve.
But at the same time, I cannot ever get that time back.
For sure.
And I left happy, but when I got alone, you know what I'm saying? When I got away from my fiance,
you emasculated yourself.
You know what I'm saying? I sat downstairs and listen, I didn't co-sign on what he just said. I didn't.
I cried.
You know what I'm saying?
I cried.
It was tough.
It was tough.
It was tough. I'm gonna leave it at that.
You know what else? When you say,
I unsnapped my bra.
Right.
Hey, my Brazil.
Hey, I'm gonna tell you what. That's what Jarrell does.
Right. You know what? When you talk about like one of the hardest things to do, one of the hardest things that I find also, the flip side of seeing them not be what you want is seeing your bad qualities in them.
Oh my God.
Oh, it bothers me to no idea because I have a. This is real talk. Like I have a attention problem. So. Man, when I see my
attention or attention, like attention,
like paying attention.
Okay.
Like, so when my son struggles with it, it goes straight to me because in my head it's I put that on him.
He get it honest.
Yeah,
right.
you be.
I went to high school with him.
You be like,
he get it honest.
Hey, real talk. So it'd be like you look at him and then you go to you talk about the parent teacher conference and when you go to them conferences and the teacher telling you shit. Your
two of us was in classes together. Two of us wasn't. Right. I'm telling you, he get it honest.
Right. So,
hey, real talk though. You look at him, you be like, you almost feel sorry.
Right.
Because you be like, man, I know exactly. I try to tell my wife, like, I know exactly what my kid feeling, but you can't really. She can't. Your spouse or the other person can't relate, but you can relate because you looking at him. You like, man, I know exactly.
Right.
So he did that shit. I know exactly what he was thinking.
So here's the thing. Think about this. You in the house. He with you every day. Y'all can talk about it. Y'all can fix it. Y'all can come up with a plan at least. Even if
but you can't because it's like some of those.
But you could try to do something.
Nah, because some of those nuances he has to figure out himself.
If you wanted to, but no, if you wanted to, if you looked at it and you wanted to correct it, you wanted to be
everything's not correctable.
It's
some of those things is like he's got to grow into this and figure out how to deal with his attention loss like I did.
I get it, but you there every day.
I can't fix it.
But you could come up with at least you've been through it. You give them nuances every day.
I can show them the empathy.
Right.
I can show them the empathy.
Yeah, you understand.
Like, I know why you're not listening to the teacher.
Right.
But you got to figure out a way to listen.
And if your wife is there and she not understanding where you coming from,
you got to check.
You could talk with that. You could talk with her. Hey, look, I didn't say that. I didn't say that. He'll say, I didn't say nothing about no.
These are jokes, people.
Hey, this is Irving Richardson. I didn't say that.
He knew me. He don't know.
At the end of the day, like,
he said that into the mic.
I see those same things in my son.
He newly married. He don't know.
I see those same things in my son. And I can't. I can't do nothing about that until Thursday if I find out on Monday.
Real, you got something for it? You want to answer? Go ahead.
Nah, I'm good, man.
Okay. No, so my response to it, the hardest thing for me as a father is figuring out that balance. Like I understand the fact that we can't be everything for everyone, and we need to at first be that thing for ourselves before we're that for anybody else. But I look at my kids and it's like I want to be there in the times that they need me, and figuring out that balance when that is one of the hardest things for me to figure out. Facts. Right? So it's like looking at it, it's like I overcompensate. I wind up overcompensating for things that I probably shouldn't.
What phone is that?
Yeah, I don't know what kind of phone that was, but I wound up over.
BlackBerry.
The last one. Right.
The fossil. Where you get that from?
He dug that up. Right. Tink, tink, tink.
Yeah, that shit was in his shoebox.
He got that from a sand dude in Afghanistan.
Did you just move? He must have moved and found that shit. He was moving.
Hey, shout out to Jarrell for having the hot tub time machine.
Yeah, baby, where you get the phone from?
Yeah, so that's after he ruined my little information.
Hey, Terrell was trying to get deep, but
then
BlackBerry went off everything go to shit.
Then he ruined it. My apologies. I'm gonna just move on. But that's
what they call a contraption.
That's the hardest balance, the hardest part of being a father for me.
Let's get another one.
So let's just to get another one in. We'll flip it and ask what's the best part of being a father.
For me is
let Irvin go last.
Yeah, Irvin. Yeah, that's true. I was just getting ready to say. People, we're going to let Irvin go. Yeah. Right. We know you're thinking the same thing out there.
Nah, let him go first so I can think. I got to think about what I'm going to say.
Jarrell, get one.
Jarrell, go ahead.
I'm going to cut my mic off.
It's Jarrell over here. You know what I'm saying? Hey, shout out Terrell for getting my own show in a couple weeks.
That's what we here for. Well, somebody else go. Yeah. Go. The best part. Go ahead, Real.
Best part, seeing the process, man. Just being there, seeing from a baby to, you know what I'm saying, a child to, from my perspective, a young adult. You know what I'm saying? Just being there as much as possible. Seeing the actual young person evolve from the outside. You know what I'm saying? From the outside, because I grew up with cousins, and we all seen them evolve. But to see your child, you know what I'm saying, somebody that came actually from you, evolve into, and you see who they're becoming, and you kind of like, you know, kind of like a little proud. You know, I'm like, I did my best, and I wish them the best. I wish all my kids the best, and you still got to stay on them. But yeah, that's the best part, just seeing that the fruit of the labor. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think for me, the best part is having those interactions with Jarrell, cut the mic off.
There you go.
He hating. I don't want to talk no more. I don't even want to talk no more.
Man, he cut it off.
I didn't touch this mic. I don't even know what I'm doing. I'm not technical.
That's your last drop.
I went counting. Yeah. What was the question?
I can't. Hey,
no.
Hey, 97, 98 in the building.
Yeah, 98, baby. 98. No, but real talk. One of the
Do
best.
not introduce liquor to the next
this is drink
Q&A.
champs, baby. Drink champs.
This is not drink champs.
Awesome dad's drink. You got to drink to be an awesome dad.
Jarrell is drinking water, people.
Exactly.
No, you have no clue.
Jarrell is drinking water.
Go ahead, B. Go ahead.
One of the best things about being a dad is that communication. Like I know I said it like before, but there's like, man, there is so cool when you look at your kid and you have a talk with them, and like it's not baby talk. It's like I'm not, because my son is not an adult yet, but when you can have a conversation with your child, like about something that you both like, they still trying to figure it out, but they having a conversation with you. There is nothing like that. Like when my wife go upstairs, she go to sleep and it's just me and my boys. I might have a Super Mario conversation with my youngest, but it's just the thought process that he thought enough of me to like, I'm gonna tell my dad about this. So those moments and like that time, oh man, that's like, that gets right to your soul, because it's like, man, this kid, you birthed him, you've done all this stuff for him, but he's still looking at you like he's loving you, and he's processing the fact that this person right here has my best interest, so I can tell him about it. So my son can tell me about Mario. Me and my son can watch a basketball game, and he like, Dad, you say, like, we're in the midst of a game, and he like, man, you saw that movie did? And you like, yeah, I saw him, son. So it's like those interactions between your kid. Yeah, because he thinks enough of you. When your son thinks enough of you, I'm not saying like I'm done. I'm not
what you think.
Yes. Yeah. Like to have someone look at you in that aspect is like, oh, that's like, like the shining moment. You like, man, because I know it's not, the process isn't over, but I feel like at that point when he's talking to me in that realm, it's like, man, I've done what I'm supposed to do to this point. Because he's trusting. In those conversations, he's trusting me enough to ask what he don't know and to let himself be vulnerable as a kid. Because a lot of times I remember being a kid, I didn't want my mama to know you looking at porn. You know what I mean? You don't want to have those conversations. But my son, we're having those small conversations now. And it's like, it's really cool.
Y'all talking about porn? No, I'm just kidding.
Not porn, but it's like you talk about girls.
I'm messing with you.
We had a game this was last night. We had a game and the little girls is like, hey Byron. My son made a shot and like, oh, do you, Byron? And I'm laughing. So, hey, but after the game, I'm laughing. Like, son, them chicks they was talking about you. He's like, yeah, Dad, I don't really dig them though. So for him to be able to say them not his type, like he ain't on that.
Yeah.
that's really cool for your son to be able to look at you in that aspect.
Yeah.
Share that.
Yeah,
To be comfortable.
Like,
to
man,
be comfortable.
He's comfortable.
Yeah.
My son is comfortable,
I got you.
but I beat his ass. Real talk, I've whooped my kids.
We're not friends like that.
No, we're not friends.
I'm
but
still
for him to
enforcer.
still understand
What
that
it
my
is.
daddy will put his paws on
What
me,
it is.
Alpha
What it is.
male.
Yeah, he knows. Like, yeah,
What it is.
for him to still have that understanding and
That's
still
what's
be
up.
able to share is beautiful.
That's what's up. That means it's working.
Yeah, so
mean
it's
it's
like
working.
you kind of.
That's
By
what it
no
means.
means am I a perfect dad. I'm not none of that. But
what you got going on work.
yeah, I'm cool
I got
right
it.
now.
I got
So
it.
it's like it's a beautiful thing when you get to that point.
Yeah.
Mine is simple. Like, in the beginning, in previous conversations on this show, I talked about spending time. You know what I mean? Like, I had to fight for it. The time that I spend, you know what I'm saying, I feel like it's working. You know what I mean? Like he says, you know what I mean? Like okay, I'll share a situation like, like you kind of overcompensate because you don't have the time what you would like. So we went to, he's five. So we went to see the Avengers live. You know what I mean? So, you know what I mean? Like you kind of like trying to figure yourself out. Like, is this working? You know what I mean? And the only person you can talk to is him.
Yeah.
So, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we go to the Avengers, you know what I mean? The live thing up in Rosemont. And I'm like, hey, son, did you, and I'm always like, did you like it? Did daddy do a good job? You know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? Because you.
That's funny when you want the
Yeah,
you want that
it's
information.
It's crazy, right?
You
Yeah,
want
it's
that.
crazy.
I'm
Right,
just
right.
want it.
You know what I
want
mean?
your son to be
And
like,
right.
yeah,
So I'm
you
like,
good, Dad.
did you like it? Did you do a good job? You know what I mean? And literally, I swear to God, God's my witness. This dude looked at me and said, I liked it, Daddy. I love everything we do together. And
this
that
is why you
and
didn't
that
go first.
This
This
is
is why we didn't let you go first.
that's you know what I mean. Like I didn't get the time. I didn't, you know what I mean. Like I said, it was dark moments,
Right.
and I want to prevent those dark moments from happening to him. And then he got that, and he said that, and I literally gave him to my fiance. I was like, can you fix him something? She fixed him something. He said, this day we that. And I went downstairs, spent a little bit of
You emasculated
by myself.
You emasculated yourself again?
It was too much. It was too much. It was too much.
Wait a minute.
It was too much.
Wait a minute.
You know what I'm saying?
Wait a minute.
You know what I mean? Like, it is what it is. It is what it is.
Somebody
You know?
put another question in the box.
I thought I was amongst friends. You know what I'm saying?
Wait a minute.
So it is what it is. You know what I'm saying?
Wait a minute.
Wait a minute.
Listen.
Wait
I tell you what.
No, I hear you.
I tell you what.
Wait a minute.
I'm not ashamed.
I hear you.
You know what I'm saying?
You woke up and looked in the mirror and you were happy with the man that
So
you
so
saw.
at the end of the day, I went to sleep that night. I got up and I brushed my teeth before he woke up,
Right.
and I was happy with the guy I saw.
Fair enough.
God,
Fair enough. No,
You know
that's
what I'm saying?
that's interesting. I mean,
this dude's stupid, man.
I think with
This nigga, man. I swear.
my answer to that question is probably is pretty much along the same lines in terms of the process.
Cut their mics
Just
off,
being,
Drew.
I am.
Cut their mics
It's
off,
al-
Drew.
They already off. They mics
mics
already
off.
off. They mics are already off.
Old seeing their
Oh,
kids
oh.
here, their ass.
Oh, extra masculine. ass.
We vets over here. The vets cut their mics off.
We don't know nothing about that.
in the game for
Extra.
8 years plus.
Extra
ass.
masculine.
Buddy crying.
Yeah, no. So it's
JD, he said
the
he was
process
crying.
is what's been the most important and the best part for me. You know what I'm saying? So it's just being there.
Right. Right.
In those moments, you can't really you can't replace that with anything. And that was pretty much the last question that we had in the box. So we're about to pretty much wrap up the show. But you brought up a good point, and I'd like to get y'all perspective on it too. Is the whole affirmation thing?
Oh yeah.
Right. The fact that you just said that you asked your 5-year-old son, "Did Dad do a good job?" Right. Like, what does that look like to the rest of you? Like, do you find yourself doing the same thing, or have you found yourself doing that? And why do you think that is that we need to have that level of affirmation from them when we're the adults and they're the children?
I think there's a better question for Jarrell because he is the
whoever-
furthest along.
Well, yeah,
You know
he's
what
the
I mean?
furthest along,
He's
but
the
anybody,
furthest
but-
along. You know what I mean? Like he,
But Byron was like immediately was like, yeah, you need
But
affirmation.
but seriously,
I
Jarrell
know.
has seen more. Like you do it, and like you sow a seed, you water, you fertilize,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
all that kind of stuff, and it's growing up. You know what I mean?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like you growing this crop or whatever, this tree or whatever, and the person that's furthest along is Jarrell. Like he's seen you know what I mean, what he's putting
in.
Yeah,
but we all have different points, and I like when we get things. So I just would like to hear the perspectives of everybody.
Look at your kid and that kid, like, because at the end of the day, you're responsible for him. You made him. So you kind of want that kid. You kind of want to know that kid's happy. And a lot of times, the older you get, man, like you watch TV and you see people, and it's like, even when you were a kid, how often did you tell your parents, "Mom, I'm good with what you did. Dad, I'm good with what you did." I didn't do that. I don't remember having those conversations like, "Man, Mom, that was cool as shit you did that."
Right.
I don't remember telling my dad.
Yeah.
I told him thanks a lot. Like, man, I appreciate you giving me this car, but it was never to the point where it was like I affirmed that he did what he was supposed to do. So I think when I look at my kids, I kind of be wanting to know, like, man, I did good. Like, that could be my own insecurities. That could be something like that. But at that point, I just be wanting my kid to. You want that. I want to know that I did well by you. And that's my son, because I'm responsible. So I want to know that the person that I'm responsible for is happy. And when not even necessarily happy, but he's good. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? Yeah, right. And at his age, I got a 12 and a 9-year-old. At their age, happiness is all I can really get as a affirmation. Yeah, when you get older, when they get older, then you really kind of had a conversation. Yeah, you had a conversation. But at a 12 and 9-year-old, it's like, yeah, son, you good? You like, man, yeah. Mm-hmm. So it's
honestly, man, I never even. It's gonna sound really cold, but I never cared about the affirmation for me. I think more like, you know what I'm saying, your dad, he never really probably asked because he was already almost sure that I did my best, and if he's not good, better be good enough. If he's not good with it, that's on him. You know what I mean? I'm with you. So from that mentality, that's where I was always with all four of my kids. I never, and it's not to say there's anything wrong with wanting to know that.
Wanting to know that. Yeah.
I'm just saying personally, I was always like, I did my best, and I hope it's good.
I did this with you in mind. I don't need to hear it
because I grew up in a family where we ain't share those type of things. We ain't share. If somebody did something good or whatever like that, you know what I'm saying? You had that type of communication. So I was always good with not. Garrett ain't never had to say I did something good. I know when I did something good. You ain't got. You know what I'm saying? And I never needed. And again, I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with it. I never needed affirmation from my wife.
But not to start another conversation though. But do you think it would have helped you along if you got it? Nah, like say you would have did something right, your mom would have came and like, man, great job, man, you made the honor roll, son. Like, man, that's impressive.
I'd have said I supposed to make the honor roll. That's what I do.
but see,
but that's my mentality.
But your mentality was built in something.
Yeah, my mentality comes from a totally different place.
That's like, different. So I can understand that when you say that.
But I also understand that when you said when Irvin said that, I'm like, man, that would have been cool to hear.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like even for me, that would have been cool to hear. Amari or Nyla say like, yo, that was dope. Yeah. I appreciate that.
Right.
You know what I mean? And not that I needed to hear it. It's just,
but it would have been cool.
Yeah,
exactly.
You know what I mean?
Hey, your next day at work would have been easy.
Yeah, it's like, would have
been like, man,
but at the end of the day, they went off laughing when I said it.
You know? Because sometimes, man, you be spending money. You like, man, they so unappreciative. You know what I mean? Like, look, spoiled. They spoiled as hell. Spoiled as hell. So I get both sides. Right. You know what I mean?
So mine was different. You know what I mean? Like the way I was raised, we talk a lot about dads because it's mainly a dad show. But you know, like we know the bio dad wasn't around. I was always aware of the bio mom. Now, so check this out. You know what I mean? You're a kid, and you have the bio mom around, and you have your mom. They're there together. You know what I'm saying? So the bio mom, you know what I'm saying, gave me to a family that she felt comfortable in raising me. She was young. She didn't feel like she could do it. Mm-hmm. And then you got the person who raised you, saying that took you into their house when they kids, like, they done.
Right.
You know, they're 19 and 20 years old. They about to start working, going to college and that kind of stuff. And then, you know, going to their little trade program, stuff like that. And then here comes a 3-month-old, you know what I mean, which is me. So affirmation was a huge part of my situation because if you give your child, I imagine, I'm gonna try to look through my biological mom's eyes. You know what I mean? If you give your child up to another person, you got to feel like it was the right thing to do.
Yeah, that's big.
You know what I'm saying? You got to feel like, you know what I'm saying? And I don't know. I don't even know who you would get that from. You know what I mean?
Right.
And if you take in a child, when you 19, you done. Your youngest is 19 years old. Yeah. And your oldest is 20 years old. And then you got this three. You got to feel like you did the right thing, like you ain't wasting your time.
Yeah. You think too? You look at your biological mother, and you even more impressed because she was able to say, I couldn't do what she did.
But here's the thing: this is how fast I had to grow up. So you got two women. It's fighting. You know what I'm saying? My son. This is my son. This is my son. When I'm both of their sons. You know what I'm saying? Because you know what I'm saying. And like at the younger, I remember at like 7, 8 years old. They would be at the kitchen table and they were having a discussion. We don't want to say argument because I don't want to get in their business. You know what I'm saying? They would have a discussion. And I remember like 7, 8 years old looking at my biological mom like, listen, you know what I'm saying? I love both of y'all. 7, 8 years old, seriously. I love both of y'all. I can't be where I am. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm happy, Mom. I can't be where I am if you don't get me to this family. And I can't be where I am without you, Mom. Because I don't have the life I have if you don't make that decision. Right. So I'm not gonna identify, you know what I'm saying? And I know at that time it probably hurt my mom. If I don't preface it with bio, you know what I'm talking about. If I know it hurt my mom. But what I was saying is I understand what you did, but I'm not here if she don't make that decision. Right. And I'm looking at my bio mom like, I understand what you did, but I'm not here if she don't make that decision. Right. You know what I'm saying?
Go ahead.
You know what I'm saying?
You know what's funny about that dynamic? There was no male there.
No,
like, this is the awesome dad
right. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
That dynamic, your father was missing.
But my
put anything.
But my dad, but my dad, not the bio dad, because I preface it with that. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? He knew what time it was with him. Like, listen, you know what I'm saying? Like, listen, I ain't got time to be throwing around no balls with you. You know what I'm saying? Let me say, flick on the lights. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? You know what I mean?
I'll just add this in, and y'all know where I'm coming from again. Affirmation is very important because Jesus needed affirmation. After he got baptized, the voice from the Lord, from God, said, "This is my son, in whom I'm proud of." That's when he started his ministry. All them years before that, Jesus was just Jesus, a regular man. Until he got that affirmation of who he was, and that I'm proud of you, son. It took him to a whole nother level. Right. And after that, he went into the wilderness and fasted for 40 days.
Right. And so I think I gotta say,
I'm not gonna mix my spirit.
But think about what I said. Like I'm 7, 8 years old, and like neither one of these women are sure if they did the right thing. You know what I'm saying? They're not sure if they did the right thing. Right. Oh, and it took me throughout my growing up for this affirmation. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? From each one, it didn't stop there. I'm telling you where it started.
No, I get it.
Right. When I'm raising my son, don't cut it back on. Especially since he's in a situation he is, which I wish he wasn't. Right. You know what I mean? For me, it's just a checks and balances. Like, am I doing the right thing? You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I get it. I get it. No, it makes sense. I think that I think from an affirmation perspective, I think that I'll go on a limb and say all men need some level of affirmation from a man that from a man in that they deem to be
a thug.
Right. Well, that's a whole nother conversation. Yeah. That's a whole nother conversation. But I think at some point we all can look back in moments where it's like you hear that as boys and then as men coming, so both ways, like hearing that what you're doing in the direction you're going in is good, right? And then the people, because as men, we like to be in people's lives for a particular reason, right? Providers, like if we're doing something, we're doing it for a reason. And whether or not we ask you for it, we would like to see some evidence of like, you really appreciate what it is that we're doing because we're going to an extra length to do those things. So I think that that level, I think we look for it, but again, we go back to the conversation about masculinity. It's not a masculine thing to sit back and do something for someone and then, quote unquote, expect to hear nice job or pat on the back.
You know what my son told me, man, his senior year after they lost? Heartbreaking. Oh, it was ridiculous.
We ain't finna go back to heartbreaking.
High school loss. It was similar, but theirs was on the last second 3-pointer hove halfway. Yeah. How?
Goggles.
Yeah. So he told me after that night when he had broke down and they was all crying and stuff, and I talked to him. Like nobody, he came out and me and Jamon was just looking like he had this look on his face. And Mr. Ferguson was there too. He just bolted out the front door and we was like, all right, so who talk to him? Because he looks scary right now. You know what I mean?
Hey, he real tall. He real tall.
He looking mad. You know what I mean? Like,
get out the way.
So
hey, y'all out there playing rock, paper, scissors.
Was like, what you mean? Go talk to him. I said, shoot, I knew he was gonna say that, man. But I talked to him, and then months later, though, months later when he was going to college, I don't know if he was there already or not, but he literally wrote me a letter. In the letter, he said, that night when you told me you were proud of me, like changed my whole perception of everything.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking like, man, that's probably one of the first times I actually.
That was your affirmation.
Think about it though. Do you think you?
That was your affirmation.
Telling him that like.
Right.
No, I started to think. I said, have I been telling him that before?
Right.
Only when I felt proud. You know what I'm saying? When he wasn't getting good grades, I can't be proud.
You ain't supposed to.
But
you don't reward bad behavior.
He felt he had failed, and to hear me say, "No, dude," because I really felt like that. Like he played his arse off. Mm-hmm. I mean, the dude was. I was like, oh, and they lost. You know, it happens. Life. I told him I've been there before. You know what I'm saying? When you just give your all and it's still not enough.
Yeah.
But I'm proud that you actually put it all out there.
Yeah.
And
left it
he
on the
said
floor.
that made him feel that made him feel like, all right, cool. What's next?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
he feels like he can take on the world. Yeah.
The affirmation was important, and it's something I never got, but I probably never needed it. You know what I mean? Because my head was very strong. Like
I think you shaped. So I think what happened, in my opinion, I think you shaped based on your experiences. You took not getting it in a way that helped you be the best that you can be. I don't think that it was never that you didn't need it, because I believe if you got it, it would have given you additional fuel to be more, right? So we just do that. Like it's the same thing. Like
not to make a hip hop analogy. Yeah. Not to make a hip hop analogy, but you remember that song like Drake was like, man, I wonder if you wasn't so bad off would I've worked this hard. There's a song he has. I can't remember the song, but it's like in a lot of those instances from our standpoint, when how we were raised, when you're given nothing, it makes you work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it's kind of like for a lot of people, the affirmation is never there. So when you look at it from that standpoint, because it was never affirmed, it pushed you.
But they didn't know.
But no.
They didn't know at that point.
But I'm just saying, like, there's a lot of
right.
Kind of like when you would do something in practice and Gary be like, you suck. Right. Because it never lets you get too big headed. So you got to keep working.
Right.
And I always had people like that around me.
Yeah. Right. Like my dad never told me.
You was around us.
Yeah. I'm just saying, like, just think about this.
Catch the ball.
Yeah. But even when you got to think, a lot of people probably didn't like Jarrell because of that. Like, certain people you was yelling at.
I tell you what.
Really cool.
I tell you what. But here's the thing.
But when Garrett's saying, it's like, it's the coach. The coach like, you suck.
But here's the.
You could have just dunked. Like, you could have just did some shit.
But here's the thing.
Your coach is like, you suck.
But here's the thing. But check this. But check this out.
I still ain't good.
But check this out. Even with Jarrell.
Yeah, I thought I was.
But here's the thing. Check this out with Jarrell though. Even if you didn't like what he said, you always respected it because because he was doing what you was doing.
Yeah, but he was just giving you what he got.
I was really just coming from a place of we need to get better.
Yeah,
but he giving you what he got.
If we're all on the same team, I can hold you. I feel like I can hold you.
I'm gonna tell you what.
You can tell me
I'm gonna
shoot
tell
the ball, make some shots.
But I'm gonna tell you what though. Coming from younger you was, I ain't understand what no, you know what I'm saying?
Nah,
you know what I'm saying? I understood this.
When you got a 15-year-old.
He said, you got to do better.
Bro,
I'm going to do better. Whatever that look like.
Bro, he's 16 and you 15.
But here's the thing.
Right. You shouldn't be looking at him like
But that's the same thing with our kids, though.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you need to be in this space.
I shouldn't be looking at a 16-year-old.
But you need to be in this space.
That's my affirmation.
Okay, but here's the thing. But if you recognize, like Drill, in our eyes, at 15 and 16, he had played more basketball. I know he played more basketball than I did. So you put it in a situation where you see this dude that's done more than you do, and he says he expects more from you. That's the same thing you want from your kid.
Yes.
That's the same thing your parents wanted for you. Like, I'm doing way more. You know what I'm saying? Like, so what you were just talking about a second ago, like, I'm doing way more than my pops did. And that's the plan.
Right.
That's the plan. You want your child to do even more than what you doing. You know what I'm saying? Like, we a little bit behind as black men at stacking the generations. That's what I'm saying. We're a little bit behind stacking generations, but at the end of the what we're doing is doing our part in the stack. We're doing our part in the stack. You know what I'm saying? Like, you got your child in college.
I would like to get away from the fact of saying that that's what we want. I think that we're having a conversation about the things that we need. Like, we need to do these things as it relates to, like, affirming some of the things that we do.
Correct.
That we do with our kids, and some of the things that, or having an expectation that to some degree it's okay to accept affirmation. I'm not saying that you're not. You're saying that it's not. It's not okay to accept affirmation for that, and using that as fuel. It's based on what Byron was saying. It's similar to the fact of, like, when you think about whooping your kids. Do you ever consider the fact that maybe I might be whooping them a little bit too much, and am I getting a better result by whooping them as opposed to not whooping them? Same way with you when your son walked out, and would I get a better result by saying, son, you did a good job, or pick your damn head up. It's a loss. You move on to the next loss. There's two different, it's two different spectrums and two different lanes, but because of the way we look at masculinity, going to the side of affirming, saying that you did a good job and keep going and put your head up and do these things is a little bit, it's frowned upon in the men's culture.
I think we just have to use wisdom as far as which one to do. Cause I think if you're going to affirm that somebody did something wrong or they need to get better, you need to also be able to affirm that they doing well. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? It's like you can't be always you suck.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Sometimes you got to be like, good, now you getting it. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, now you getting it. Now you're getting better.
Right. Don't be Denzel from He Got Game.
Even Gary was like that. He get on us. All my coaches was like, they cussed me out, but it never bothered me. I needed that.
But you had a different foundation that allows you to deal with that.
Yeah.
A lot of people
can't deal with it. Right.
It would break. It did break some
people.
Listen, we had a lot of people who quit.
Yeah.
And so because of our children, when you have children, they're all different, right? So you can probably tell Amari, you can be harder on Amari than you might be on Nyla, right? So it's like, as parents, or as parents, period, knowing and understanding that I got to be tougher on Amari to get out of him whatever as close to his potential as possible.
Right. But that takes parenting to know that kid.
Yeah, it does.
You got to be in that kid's life to know he don't respond to that.
They respond.
Exactly. So back and forth. When he's 4th and 5th grade, he had to be able to look at Amari like, I can't yell at him.
I can't yell
at him. He going to shell.
He going to shell. Yeah.
And I can look at my kids and I know the difference.
That's who he is.
But that's about you being. That's about you being there. That's about you being there.
You got to finesse. You got to finesse it. You can't be. I can't be hard. I can be hard with my daughter.
Yeah,
right.
Way harder.
And so
I got to finesse him.
Here's the question that I want to ask right after
That's
that.
time.
Right. And so by doing that with
I'm
boys,
right?
By doing that with boys, like saying with Amari, staying with that same example. If you're finessing it, like, that you have to be, to get through to him, you have to treat him a little bit softer, right?
Don't say soft.
Not soft, differently.
Differently. So I'll say differently. Do you think that we're enabling them in a way that makes, when they step out in the world for society, like,
no.
Because
I just want to define. Okay. I just want to define the finessing part. It's like a hammer. I could bam it, or I can put it up to your forehead and muff you with it. I muff him with the hammer. I ain't gotta bam it on them. You know what I mean? So when I deliver, my delivery is more of a. It's still hard. You still gonna feel that.
Damn,
that it's hard.
Right, he had to use the hammer.
But it's like, yo,
because his hands are like hammers.
Yeah.
But
so it's more like that. Like it's not a. No, let me talk soft. He know that, right. If he listening, if he hear this podcast, he gonna be like, "Dad, you ain't finesse is not part of it."
Right. Yeah, so it's just the approach. It's just a
different delivery.
Yeah,
but it's still hard. It's like, no. You still gonna get it together.
I think for us as black males, you got to give them both parts. Mm-hmm. So when I snap, I'm supposed to snap. I'm supposed to say, son, that was some bullshit. Yeah. Like, what you did was wrong. That shit's foul. Yeah. But at the end of the night, even when I tell him, like when my son get in trouble, bro, I real talk. I might come in the house, I throw tables, you might turn some shit over. Mm-hmm. But at 9 o'clock, I'm real talk. Like at 8:30, 9 o'clock.
That's why that hole was in that wall.
He about to get arrested when he leaves the house.
Then the talk comes,
I find my way to my son's room to tell him, son, I love you, bro. Mm-hmm. I don't want your potential to go to waste. Mm-hmm. That's why I'm angry. Mm-hmm. So I go back and I try to explain the anger. Mm-hmm. But your kids got to see the anger,
and that has to come with a warning. If it doesn't change, when I come back,
see that shit again.
You gonna see it worse.
Yeah, you gonna see the hope. I mean? Like if you want to keep seeing the hope coming here, that's on you.
I had to wake him up out of his sleep one time. I was at work. Wife called me like, yeah, I told him clean up his room, blah blah blah. He disregarded. She said, you want to talk to him? I said, no.
Nope.
Hang up. Let him go to sleep. I got home at 10 o'clock that night. Pulled him up out that bed with punches. Boom, boom, boom. He looking like, yo. He stood up. I said, stand up. Right in front of me. Now, of course, he's taller. He's about 6'7" at this point. I said, listen, man, I'm the alpha male. I am the alpha male. You know you watch the Animal Planet and all that with me. Yeah. You know what the alpha male does when he feels like the younger one want to take his position?
Kill him.
We gonna fight until death. Are you ready? I am. Like seriously. My kids think I'm crazy, but you have to instill that. Yeah. And at other times, it's like he'll be messing up in school. I have to have a different approach. So what's going on with you?
Take a walk.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like
take a walk.
Try to pick his brain and see where he at. I ain't gotta come alpha male the whole time. You know what I mean? But there's instances where it's needed.
He's got to see both sides. He's got to see both sides because this world, most times than not, the world isn't the other side.
Right.
It's only the hard side.
Only the hard
side. He's only getting that softer side at the crib.
Yeah, with his mom.
Man, he's got to see both.
That's her job.
Yeah, he's got to see both. But he's got to see your side to understand it's okay to be scared. It's okay to be insecure.
And you can be strong and calm at the same time.
Yeah, so he's got to see that.
Right.
So when he sees it from you, that's his example. My dad is off, like, he's looking at you and he's like, my dad is off the fucking meat rack.
Yeah.
But he can calm down.
Right.
So, and that
there's a control.
You just showed your son two sides of a man.
Right.
Yeah.
And a lot of times when the dad is not there, they only see the feminine side.
Right. So, it's pretty much like a controlled fire. The fireman set controlled fires to be able to
see it. From a male perspective, he has to see it because he's got to be able to bring it out of himself.
So he's got to be when it's needed. He got to be able.
He got to be able to nut up like, hey,
man, up.
I'm not with that. Cut that out.
Yeah, like he's got to see it. But if he don't see it, he has no clue where to get it from.
It ain't fair. You know what I'm saying? And he got to understand that. You got to understand that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think. Bottom line is, if your kids know that you have their best interests in mind, you know what I'm saying? Like, I want you to be the best. I tell all my kids, I want you to, I don't care what you do in life, if you decide to be whatever, doctor, singer, just go 110%. That's all I'm asking.
Yeah.
That's all I can ask. If you do your best and fail, I'm proud.
Yep.
Yeah.
But if you're not doing your best, you're going to hear my voice the whole time.
Yeah. You
don't want
because
that.
I feel like, dog.
You don't want that.
And I'm like that across the board, even with my wife. Like, yo, I feel like everything is basketball to me.
Right.
So we're on the same team.
Right,
baby.
right.
Yeah.
But
if you're on my team,
exactly.
you're going to go hard as I'm going. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I'm just the GM.
Exactly. You know what I mean? So it's like that across the board. So in real estate, I'm going hard. If we decide to partner up, you got to go hard too. Ain't nobody's finna sit back and you got to get paid off me and that type of thing. Nah, man, we all going hard, and it's good that we hold each other accountable.
But you know what I think too? When you give them that, you got the whole fire and that part. When your son sees the anger, he sees the vested. He sees you vested. I think when you anger a lot of times people look at anger in a bad sense. But sometimes you need to see that anger to know it meant something to you. Yeah. It's no different than like when you bring it back to basketball. I ain't never been to a hoop where they wasn't arguing. Right. Nigga, it's gotta mean something to you.
You have to care.
If we're in here hooping and it's silent, I believe something's wrong. Because that means somebody ain't caring. So where's the intensity? There's got to be some intensity, which you got to. So for us as basketball players, you got to bring that same intensity to your life. So as well as your parenting. So you got to be able to show your kids, man, this shit's got to mean something to you.
You have to care.
It's got to care.
Yeah.
If you don't care, it won't matter.
Right.
Same thing when I went to school. My dad, I was talking about college and stuff. My dad was like, I was trying to go get our master's and stuff. He's like, I'm not helping you with that. I said, damn. What you mean? He like, man, it'll mean more to you if you pay for it.
Yeah.
So it's like, as an adult, you like, I feel you.
Right.
But you got to get to the point where you can tell a kid, as opposed to just doing it. You're like, nah, he's going to mean more to you when you got some skin.
And he's done enough to where you actually respect what he's saying and understand it.
I see exactly. Once he said it was like, you right.
So for anybody that's listening, this is why sports are very important. And get your kids involved because we have. I mean, the references that we've made are all valid, and it goes back to the character that sports build and the team. You know, it really does. So it translates over. So definitely get your kids involved in whatever it is.
Go back to that huddle and you got to look at them guys.
It translates into life for sure. So we've pretty much exhausted all of the questions that we've had, and
added some more.
Yeah, and added some more for sure, man. I definitely appreciate you brothers for coming through. We've had some very,
I'm hungry.
We've had some. There's a peanut butter and jelly over there.
I don't eat peanut butter.
We're gonna definitely have to do this again, and definitely appreciate y'all for coming through, man.
Appreciate it. Peace.
One.
What a way to end season 1 of the Awesome Black Dad Show. I would like to thank the fellas Byron, Irvin, and Jarrell for stopping through and participating in our first panel discussion, and I absolutely look forward to having more of these sessions in 2018. As you heard earlier, this is the end of season 1, and I had a blast. I learned so much in the first 10 episodes, and it was truly unexpected. Those 10 conversations opened the door for so much more, and is one of the reasons why I decided to cut the season a little shorter than I originally anticipated. 2017 was a year of yes for me. In order for me to conquer some of those fears and grow, I had to learn to say yes to my ideas and learn how to execute without concerns of perception, and even more importantly, my own self-doubt. My nugget for 2017 for you is to give yourself permission to be your best self. Believe me, what's waiting on the other side will surprise you. 2018 is about ordering my steps in a way that puts me in the best place to be successful, with continuing to provide content with the purpose of extending narratives in a way that no one else can. 2018 will also bring the first ever coffee table photo book dedicated to sharing the stories of fatherhood through the eyes of black dads, along with more empowering content by way of video and, of course, audio. So if you have not subscribed to the podcast, I'll be the first to say shame on you. And if you want to keep up with everything awesome, check out our website at awesomeblackdads.com and leave us your email address. I want to say thank you to all my friends and family who've reached out via text, phone, or social media messenger to encourage me to continue on and to also give constructive feedback. It has been a huge help in this awesome journey. As always, we appreciate your support and listening ear, and we'll see you soon for season 2. By the way, follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Awesome Black Dads and on Twitter at Awesome Black Dad without the S. Happy New Year.